Welcome into the Sports Buffoons Podcast. Welcome on back again once again to the Sports Buffoon Studios here out of Lenexa, Kansas. Let's roll with it, of course. Why not? Now we got our boy JG here with us. I'm Mike Settle running it. Tanner is gone. What's going on, JG?
Oh, man, I feel great, man. It's a great fucking day. Great day to talk about sports, so let's do it.
I feel like you had a busy day today, man. You were running around town doing all kinds of stuff around KCMO.
Man, I've been working my butt off, and it's a great part about life, man. Some days you get to relax, and other days you need to go all in and work your butt off. So that's what I've been doing.
I got you. Well, that's cool, man. I feel like it's been a week. It warmed up again, so I'm just trying to get through it a little bit and work through the week, and get to the cooler weather once more is kind of my plan. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
I did get somebody flipped me off on the road yesterday, which I thought was very interesting. And it made me think about, like, back when I was in my teenage years, in my 20s, I used to think a certain kind of way about people that would flip me off while they were driving. And then I realized as I got older that they're people that either are mentally unstable or, just don't know how to act on the road. But yeah, it's been a while, but somebody flipped me off yesterday on the road, and it was actually his fault. So it made me feel good about myself.
Yeah, that's kind of a funny story there, because a lot of times in society, when it's someone's personal fault, they try to blame the other to deflect the situation, or they're just naive and dumb and they just don't know any better. I suppose that's something we see a lot too.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like when you think about it, it's it's usually whoever actually flips the bird, it's typically their fault. That's the thing that I've realized over the course of my life. If you're getting flipped off on the road, whoever does the flipping, it's typically their fault and they made a mistake. So, and that's what happened yesterday. So
I would recommend just give them the thumbs down, man. And when you see that nonsense and they're acting a fool, just give them the thumbs down. That's probably the best you can do. And you don't got to do it, like that old movie where you got it like this, and then all of a sudden you just see him go, just right away. Just give him the thumbs down, like, hey, you're being a loser, man. What the hell's wrong with you? So that'd be the best way to handle it, I would say, and at least in a more mature manner, maybe.
I thought it was funny, man. I thought it was humorous, like, just because I haven't been flipped off in a long time on the road. I was like, okay, well, I knew it was gonna come. I knew it was coming sooner or later. It was just like, yeah, I thought it was funny, man.
Well, maybe they were drunk, man. You never know.
They could have been.
Speaking of that, before we kick it off here to talk a little Chiefs football for a while with you guys, and of course follow up on our easy money picks of the week. What are you sipping on right now, man?
I've got the strawberry lemonade vitamin water right here. Tastes amazing.
Nice. Good choice. Just don't get that mixed up with other liquids that could potentially be in that bottle. Just for future reference for yourself.
I didn't put any vodka in there, if that's what you're asking me.
No, but I was referencing something else that we talked about personally, but I'm not going to bring it up at the moment.
Oh, okay.
As far as I'll go with.
You're talking about arsenic. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. All right, guys. Well, anyways, like I said, Tanner Dawson's out for the day. He is doing something lame at work, I think. I don't even know what the hell's going on with that guy lately. He's spending all his time at dive bars, and it's just a mess of a guy right now. Anyways, guys, let's jump into talking a little bit Chiefs for a while, because we got a quick recap we want to do. I know, guys, it's Wednesday, and not everyone wants to hear about another Chiefs loss, guys. Believe it or not, if you take into account the preseason, this is now our 6th loss in a row that we've had to endure as Chiefs fans. The horror that's gone on for a while. In this game against the Eagles, I mean, it in a lot of ways it went the way I thought it was going to go. I was really happy with the defense, the way they came out firing in this previous game. I thought the pass defense looked great. The corners were doing a good job for the most part. AJ Brown for the most part was locked up. Devontae Smith only had like one play that he made a play downfield where Trent McDuffie just got lost out there at that moment. And then stopping the run for the most part. The defense showed up, man. It was the offense and their failures once more that was the issue in this game in week 2. And it was very frustrating to watch. It's just obviously Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are out right now. And we're working with a lot of backups, trying to see who can become a playmaker on this team. And, not a lot of guys step up in these moments. You expect to see more out of Noah Gray, maybe. Expect to see more maybe out of Juju. Hollywood, get him a few balls here and there, but he's not the guy he was in his mid-20s. It's definitely not the same player anymore. Your one greatest play offensively of the day was the Tyquan Thornton 50-yard bomb, who, hey, we all saw at training camp, guys, out there making plays down the field. He's got the speed. The guy's made some great catches too. So that's been nice to see. But overall, just a frustrating day once again. And then Travis Kelce with, the drop of the decade in some ways to just cap it off. It felt like it was a drop / interception, of course. And just to cap off the way that whole game was going was so frustrating. So, I was curious if you had any thoughts on that game, and particularly what stood out, maybe what didn't, something that we can maybe look for hope to the future even.
I think what surprised me the most is just the way that it happened. If you would have told me that the Chiefs were going to lose this game, I wouldn't have been surprised if you would have told me that Kelce would have not dropped the ball. If you would have told me that, offensively, that the Chiefs would have struggled to throw the deep ball, I would have believed you. If you would have told me that the defense would have struggled, I would have believed you that we would have lost this game. But the fact that the defense actually looked good, that the deep ball is back in Kansas City, and I think that's something that we're going to be able to expect going forward, is just the Chiefs playing good defense, throwing the deep ball. The thing that surprised me the most is just the way that it happened, and the fact that, in my opinion, if Kelce doesn't drop that ball, we probably win the game. And I know
so too.
It's like, nobody's perfect, but it's hard for me to sit back and say, well, Kelce's getting old and we shouldn't expect him to catch those balls. I'm just not, I'm not used to seeing that from him. I think maybe it was just a timing thing, and maybe that, Kelce is going to learn from that particular mistake. But, honestly, at this stage of his career, he shouldn't be making those types of mistakes. And so if you would have told me that the Chiefs lost, okay, I can buy that. But how did they lose? I wouldn't have expected you to tell me that the defense played well. Offensively, we're throwing it over the top, and we're throwing the deep bomb successfully, and that we lose a game because Kelce, for whatever reason, just couldn't catch that pass. So I understand why we lost the game, but the script of that just doesn't make sense to me. And so that's what surprised me the most, is just the way that it happened. I would have thought it would have been the other way around. I would have thought that you could have pointed to something else, outside of, Kelce dropping a pass. That's where I'm at, and we're going to talk about the tush push later. But that's just kind of something that we knew, that the tush push it is what it is. So that's not necessarily something that I thought would or would not define a game.
Yeah, my initial reaction when I saw that play happen was just at this point with Travis Kelsey, who had already had a really good game up to that point. I think he was 4 catches for 61 yards at that point. Was my reaction was this guy is at this point in his career going to hurt his legacy. He's a guy who I've talked about forever with you guys. We had a debate on this exact show 5 years ago, Travis Kelsey versus Tony Gonzalez, and even back then I was telling you guys Travis Kelsey was the best Chiefs tight end of all time at 5 years ago. I mean, before a lot of the craziness we've seen go on with this team, of course. And obviously that's still true, and it was shown to be true over the years. But whenever you get to this point, and you're 36 years old, and you start making those mistakes, literally losing us a game. Because I agree with you that when you said that, if not for that drop by Kelsey, that the Chiefs probably win that game because it did. It changed the entire dynamic of the game, changed the entire confidence of the game at that point. When I see that though, I start to think to myself that he's actually now starting to tarnish his legacy within this game because this is a guy who, in a lot of ways, has an argument to be the best tight end of all time, the greatest playoff receiver of all time, besides Jerry Rice. Which even then, he's right on his tail for all those records. And it's just kind of a shame to see such basic plays like that he was not doing 5 years ago. He was not making those mistakes 5 years ago, and now here we are, and it's starting to show up a little bit. His age is really catching up to him between last year and this year so far. And yeah, that catch that was down by his ankles was freaking awesome, guys. I mean, that's a tough catch to make, but the mistakes are just crawling back, and he's starting to get sloppy. It reminds me, I told you guys in our chat of reminds me of KD. Kevin Durant is a guy who's just a special player, of course, on the court, but as a Suns fan, I got to witness him for a couple of years and see, okay, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad that comes with it. The sloppy play is something that KD's become more a part of him as he's gotten older in the league, and he's just careless with the ball. That's KD. He's careless with the ball at this point in his career, and I'm afraid that Kelsey is getting to that point as well. And I hope that's not the case the rest of the season, but it does worry me a little bit about just his overall NFL legacy, and if that really matters to anybody. I mean, it does to me because I want him to go down as the best tight end of all time. So I'm not sure what you think about that, if that matters to you at all.
It's an interesting comparison. But for me, when you're just talking about Kelsey, I think that we have to give him the benefit of the doubt because it's just a week 2 game. And I think that when you're somebody who's like Travis Kelsey, you're a multiple Super Bowl champion. We don't necessarily define their careers by a week 2 game. And so I think if you're going to make a mistake, this is when you wanted it to happen. Now, granted, it was ugly. You're playing, it's just kind of the rematch versus the Eagles, who you lost to in the Super Bowl. So it's definitely a big deal. I don't want to downplay it, but I think if you're somebody like Kelsey it's kind of like, do you show up in the big moments? And we got a long way to go in this season before we actually start to talk about the bigger moments and the moments that count. And so I just have to give him the benefit of the doubt. It was ugly. But let's see what happens as the season goes on. Let's see what happens when we get our receivers back, and let's see what happens when he gets put in that same situation, later down the road in one of these playoff matchups and or the Super Bowl when it really counts. And I would be hard pressed to just, I'd put my money on Kelsey if I saw that same scenario pop up again. And I think he's normally going to catch that ball. And I don't care how old these people think he is. I mean, he's obviously an older guy at this point, but he's going to catch the ball. He's going to catch the ball, dude. And that's why I'm not going to write him off at this point of the season.
All right, man. I appreciate the positivity and enthusiasm because, I mean, I want to see a little bit more out of him going forward and less mistakes at the end of the day. So that's what I'm banking on with Travis Kelsey, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, you say what you will about his personal life and all that stuff's going on. I mean, we know what goes down. When you're getting engaged and you're getting married or you're starting a
Well, he's got
family.
baby brain, maybe. You never know, Jason. You
What? Yeah.
you you
Hey,
went through that at one point in your life. You had baby brain, and
yeah.
maybe Kelsey has engagement brain.
Yeah, well, I was not a professional athlete though when that happened. I was just managing a fantasy football team. That's all I was doing. These guys are professionals, and if you ask me about what's going on with him personally, you might get a completely different answer out of me. But as a professional football player, the personal stuff doesn't matter. You have to show up and do what you're being paid to do. And honestly, like I believe in him, man. And I think he's going to get the job done for us this season and during the playoffs.
All right, so I do have to ask you one thing before we move on from the Eagles topic. Is obviously we've discussed the tush push in the past, as everyone has, but so we got to hear our opinions for just a second. If we think our opinions have changed at all regarding revolving around the longevity of the tush push, if it should stay after this season, especially considering we saw multiple false starts, we saw incorrect alignment. The center at times was probably too far over the ball as well on these plays. I mean, and the officials themselves, I think Blandino got in there at one point and it was just irritated. You could hear out of his voice, the former head of officiating. He just was talking about like, he's done with this play. He's tired of it, and because it's hard to officiate the tush push. And so I'm just curious what your thoughts are. It's sticking around this year, but going into next year, do you think your opinion might change regarding this play? And if you think it's time to maybe ban it and find a way to change the rules regarding the way this play is ran?
So from the beginning, I've been a big fan of the tush push. But I've always had a bad reasoning for it, which is that, if the NFL hates it, if the owners hate it, if the players hate it, and if everybody in the world hates the play, this is kind of my MO in life. If everybody hates something, I absolutely love it. And that's a bad reason. I've been the type of person that always likes to go the opposite direction in life. And so, if you tell me the officials hate it, that's great. I love it all the more. If Roger Goodell hates it or Jerry Jones hates it, man, I love it, man. Just keep it in there forever. But that's just kind of my knee jerk reaction. That's the way I always go with these things. Um, you know, I would say that my opinion has not changed. And the other reason why I would say that is because if the officials hate it, well, I think that we've taken it too far in society with instant replay. We feel the need that we need to review everything. We want to eliminate human error, uh, you know, in all ways possible. And I think that, if they feel like it's impossible to officiate the play, that's fantastic, man. I want to have those plays in there. I don't feel like I want to watch a sport where the officials or people who are reviewing the plays want to have complete control of the outcome of a particular play. And if there's something that can't be officiated, or if we can't see anything, I think that's a big part of having nuance in the game of football. And so I don't think we should be able to police that. That doesn't make me happy as a fan to sit here and say, oh well, we figured out a way to police every single nuance of the game. I don't want to see that, because it just makes it more exciting if we can have a play like the tush push where we don't know what happens. It's just like, if somebody fumbles the ball and we watch the replay of it, and we don't know if his knee touched the ground or not, or we don't know if the ball touched the plane. We don't know if we can call it a touchdown or not. I like to have nuance in the game where we actually don't know what happened, but the official can make a ruling, and we're never going to know if the official was right or wrong. The only thing we have is one specific view, or maybe two specific views of the play, and you can't overrule it. So whatever the official called on the original ruling, we just have to stick with it, because there's no way to overturn what we saw in the replay. And so I like to have nuance in the game of football, and obviously in the other sports as well. And so that's the reason why I love the tush push, is because certain things are going to happen in that particular play, and certain things are going to happen in many other plays in the game of football. And we don't have to know beyond the shadow of a doubt what happened. We can argue about it this way or that. But at the end of the day, if the official makes a call, we're going to stick with that call if there's no evidence against it. And so I love the tush push. It sounds kind of weird for me to say that, just because it's the Eagles. And, but, at the end of the day, figure out a way to stop it, man. And if you can't figure out a way to stop it, then if you're an opposing team, figure out a way to successfully do the tush push. Like if you're playing on offense against the Eagles, figure out a way to do the tush push, man, because I think it's a great play for the league. And, I just think it's one of those things where, if everybody hates it, then that means you're doing something right. And so I give all the props to the Eagles because they're doing it the right way. And I think it's very cowardice, actually, if the NFL were to try to say, well, we can't figure out a way to stop the Eagles from doing that play, so we're just going to ban it. That's extremely cowardice. And that would actually make me very disappointed if the NFL tried to do away with that play.
Yeah, so I think in this previous game, the Eagles were 7 for 7 on the tush push. I think it was somewhere around 14% of their overall play calls offensively. But I think the main gripe that everyone was complaining about, and rightfully so, was just that the offensive line was getting a head start on the play. Basically, I mean, it was essentially a false start on the majority of these tush push plays. And there was times, obviously, the Chiefs' defensive line was probably in the neutral zone, and which would have been negated. But regardless, you got to throw a flag on these plays. You gotta that's the whole point of what Blandino, I think, was referring to, was just that it's hard to officiate this play because it's happening so quick, it's so close to the ball, and to be a line judge, maybe in this case, it's hard to determine when you see two guards shooting off the line before the ball is snapped, if the ball was actually snapped, especially when that ball is, by the way, over the center's neck. Essentially it's being covered. The ball placement is not up in front of the center's helmet. It's a little more tucked underneath on these plays. And I think that's part of the issue with the future of this play and why it could be looked at as something that is going to be banned coming up next year. And, I think it was obviously talked about this past offseason. The initial rule change was awful. The verbiage was awful. In fact, I disagreed with changing the rule 100% at that time because of the way that they laid it out during the meetings in the offseason. It was going to eliminate a lot of different plays, not just the tush push. I mean, football itself would have been changed. I think they can go back to the drawing board and make something make sense for everyone involved of what can be and can't be allowed in a play of this kind of nature. You don't want to eliminate the quarterback sneak. That's not what this is about. It's about figuring out the best way to go about properly officiating a play like this, where, it's got a 97% success rate, which is fine. I'm not a big fan of, just because it's hard to stop doesn't mean you should take it away. That's not the way it should work. But whenever you are misaligned and yet you can't officiate that properly, that becomes where it's an issue, I think, for the league and what they're currently talking about. So I think this week in particular was the week we're going to look back at, or the league is going to look back out in the offseason and say, this is why we need to change this play, is based off week 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And, it's funny enough because everyone always thinks that the Chiefs have the edge due to officiating all the time. But, I mean, we saw the Eagles get a lot of beneficial calls on their tush push in this previous game, or non-calls, I should say, because they can't officiate the play. And so I think at the end of the day, that's the issue.
Yeah, and it's tough, man. And I would hate to see them actually ban the play, and then all of a sudden we say everybody's sitting there saying, well, then that means Philly never won the Super Bowl because they're running the tush push. So it's just like, at the end of the day, you have to keep the play. Otherwise, you're sitting here saying, well, that was not a legitimate Super Bowl that the Eagles won. And I think that's not a road that you want to go down.
Yeah, so that's one thing you and I will probably maybe not agree on over the years, is because, I'm never going to look back at previous years and say something was not legitimate because it was allowed that season. They were the Super Bowl champions of the 2024 NFL season. That play was allowed during that season. Just because you take it away in the future does not negate what happened during a season where that was allowed. So I just, for me, I would never look back at the Eagles 2024 championship and say that should be negated or should be looked differently upon. For that specific season, they were the best team in the league, and they always will be for that specific season. Because when rule changes happen down the road too in the NFL, we can never look back and say, well, but that year this play was allowed and then it got banned 20 years later, so we should take it away. Doesn't work that way. It's every year is specific to its own situation with the plays and the rulings and everything like that.
I think that's true if they just win the one, but if they somehow were to go back to back this year and then you take away the play, I mean, in my mind, there's 2 asterisks right then and there, and I just think that I don't know, man. That's the defining play. I mean, that basically defines their Super Bowl for me. I just think that, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say if it's a one-off, then maybe nobody would remember it. But if they somehow go back to back this year and then you take it away, that's going to be a big deal in my mind.
All right, let's move over to our next topic here: Chiefs Giants. But the big question going into this week for the Kansas City Chiefs is Xavier Worthy, and hey, let me throw his name out real quick: Jalen Royals, both full participants in practice this week, or at least not limited, I suppose. So, which is great news for a lot of different reasons. Jalen Royals has not played in like a month. Not going back into preseason. As a matter of fact, we don't know really what to expect out of him other than what we saw in training camp, which was a lot of good things. I felt like I think we were on the right trajectory with Jalen Royals. And Xavier Worthy, of course, we all know what he's capable of. Now, with that dislocated shoulder situation, I mean, it's just, you look at this, and for me, I am shocked that he is looking to be cleared to play week 3 against the Giants. My big question going into this game is it worth it? Is it worth it right now, or is it going to matter right now to start playing him and this game potentially cause a re-injury? It's a risk. You're going to play him this weekend with the Giants, or can you wait a week and play him against the Ravens? Or does that week even matter in between? Because there's just not enough time for recovery. He is going to need off-season surgery without a doubt this year. I mean, that is without question. But it's a matter to me of, can he hold up? Can he hold up, throughout the rest of this season? And I don't know if that's possible or not. We got a lot of physical games coming up in this league. And do you think it's worth it for the Chiefs to go into week 3 and play Xavier Worthy?
I think if he's practicing, then why wouldn't you take the risk? I mean, I think if you've got him out there on the practice field and, he's working out and whatnot, I think, why wouldn't you take the risk? I mean, you've already got a new deep threat this year and Tyquan Thornton. So you've already proven that, you can throw the deep ball without Xavier Worthy. And you already know Rashee Rice is coming back in week 7. And it's just like, to me, it's worth the risk. I mean, if it wasn't worth the risk, he wouldn't be out there working out with the team. I mean, they would have politely just said, "Hey, go have your surgery and let's get it over with, and then we'll see what the recovery time is at that point." But if he's out there practicing, heck yeah, man, I'm taking the risk, just because, like, obviously we can use him, and it must not be that serious of an injury to the Chiefs if they're going to throw him out there on the practice field anyway.
Yeah, I think it's something. Obviously, he's going to wear a brace going into the rest of the season probably. But I think it's a situation where the Chiefs feel a little desperate right now at the receiver spot, and I think it's part of why they are wanting to kind of force this in right now, in my opinion. I think if you walked into this and you had a healthy, playable Rashee Rice, Jalen Royals, or whatever, and things were going well with the receivers, let's say, things looked good. Let's say guys were making plays. Let's say guys were getting open and so on. Then at that point, what would be the point in wanting to risk Xavier Worthy playing him this quickly after the injury? And by the way, surgery would mean season ending in this situation for Worthy. So that's something to take into account. And that's why, he's going to try to basically patch it together, hold it on as long as possible. It's a long season, though, to have to get through with a situation like that. I think a wrong tackle going forward could be a problem. But what I'd be, we see some of these receivers over the years who play into their mid 30s. I mean, they catch a pass, they know how to protect their body, they know how to get down at the right time, they know how to avoid big hits. And I just hope Xavier Worthy is at least going to be smart enough in situations when he does have the ball to know when it's worth it to try to pick up the extra yard, or when it's worth it to just say, I got to get down, take the play for what it was, and move on to the next play. But at least you can live another down, basically. But I'll be curious how he's used. I personally think in this game against the Giants, we're going to see him used quite a bit out of the backfield. And what I mean by that is you're going to get him on different kinds of jet sweeps, getting the ball in his hands in space immediately, rather than some kind of a contested catch downfield. Because right now his big problem is going to be getting his arms up over his head. He's going to be limited in that capacity. So to me, that short stuff underneath, all those kinds of plays, getting him the ball, using his legs as his primary weapon is going to be the way Xavier Worthy's used in this game. Because as the way it looks right now, he's going to be playing, which I'm not mad about it, but I also have concerns that we're going to waste a guy's potential season if he takes the wrong hits. So for me, it's like, man, I wish we could go into this and just say we're going to beat the Giants no matter what without Worthy. We're going to live and be okay. But we're 0-2, and so are the Giants. So I mean, both of us are 0-2 at this point. So we're both fighting for a lot at this point. And so for me, it's a risky proposition. At the same time, I understand why the team would want to get him out there right now. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and maybe you're right, man. Maybe it is an act of desperation. Maybe they are just trying to get, a couple of wins. And maybe I don't know what their mentality is, but, if they get a couple of wins, and they stay afloat until Rashee Rice comes back, then maybe they don't care about what happens to Xavier Worthy at that point. So maybe they're just maybe they're thinking, well, he's going to have surgery anyway. So we might as well use him now and just hope that he can be productive for us until he has to go have surgery anyway. And then we can kind of stay afloat until Rashee Rice comes back. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the mentality is there. It depends on the injury, but the way that you made it sound is like, he's going to have surgery anyway. So why not throw him out there?
Well, it's a fully torn labrum
Yeah.
is what the actual injury is for Worthy. So it's not going to be easy to deal with, and he's not going to be a guy that can maybe make some of those great over the head catches like he did last year. So To me, it's going to be about getting the ball in space to Worthy is going to be the key in this coming few weeks, really.
Yeah, just use him for his speed, man. That makes sense to me.
Yep. Well, anyways, about this game, man. I mean, the Giants are not a pushover right now. I know that they're 0-2, but I will say they actually have a lot of talent on this team. It's not the typical Giants where you're going out there and you're just like, well, it's a bunch of bums on this roster or whatever, that kind of thing. It's not really the case. They got some good receivers, really solid players on defense as well. In fact, guys, the former friend, guys, Raheem Nunez Roches is one of their starting D tackles on the roster. If you guys remember him from back in the day, he's a former John Dorsey draft pick, as a matter of fact. Meanwhile, you got Dexter Lawrence, of course, Brian Burns, of course, Kayvon Thibodeau, Javon Holland over at free safety. I would say their weakest link is probably the cornerbacks on this roster. Corners are pretty beatable, but the front seven's really good. So go into this game with the Giants, man. What worries you the most looking at their roster? Is it something that stands out in particular? Because to me, it's like they got a great front seven, and they got some really good receivers. Malik Neighbors is awesome. Darius Slayton's a good player. Wan'Dale Robinson's undersized, but he makes plays as well. And then, of course, you got Cam Scatterbo at running back. There's some guys to work with. And Russell Wilson ain't playing too bad either.
Well, I'm certainly with you on the defense. In fact, I'm surprised to start the season that they've given up as many points as they have. I thought that this would be a very underrated defense to start the year. I do think that their defense is going to improve as the season goes along. Maybe not necessarily against the Chiefs, but I think the amount of points that they're giving up over the course of the season is going to go down. And I totally respect that defense. One thing that concerns me is just the fact that Russ looks really, really good. And he's, what is he going on 36, 37 years old, threw for 450 yards at Dallas last week. And more importantly for me is like the dude has the wheels and he knows when to use them. He can run, turn on the jets in the right situation. I think he rushed for 44 yards and then 23 yards in that second game. And yeah, he's 36 years old, and a lot of people think, well, Russ is getting old, man. He doesn't have the juice like he used to, man. I watched both of those games, dude, and that guy, he's got some freaking wheels. And it's not the Russ that we saw in Denver, and
Right.
you pair him with a guy like Brian Dayball, who basically he's responsible for, the way that Josh Allen turned out the way that he did. And Brian Dayball is an excellent coach. And, Russ is not a pushover at this point in his career, the way that people think that he is. And again, it looks so much better to me here than he did when he was in Denver. So I would say my biggest concern is just respect Russ's ground game and also respect his arm, because he's not some pushover quarterback in the twilight of his career. Like he's got something left in the tank.
Well, the first thing I thought about, Russell Wilson's got one of the best rainbow balls of all time in this league. And last week, that's what Trent McDuffie, for some reason, couldn't cover. I mean, Jalen Hurts was getting hit on that pass down to Devontae Smith, and it was like a rainbow ball for 30-something yards. It's like, and Trent McDuffie's looking lost out there. That's what I'm afraid of to see is Malik Neighbors against McDuffie on some of these balls that are put up like that, that sit in the air forever. Is McDuffie going to be ready for that? Because so far what I've seen in those situations, I don't know that it's great. I think McDuffie's great at covering slants and outs and stuff like that. Some quick passes. He's able to get his arm in there and able to be sticky on a guy. But some of these plays down the field with McDuffie is something that I'm looking at, and it's like, okay, it's something to watch for, something to take into account. But yeah, I mean, I feel similarly as far as Russell Wilson goes. He's playing better than he did in Denver by far. I mean, that Denver situation was horrible. That was a total joke from the very beginning. Um, but yeah, the Giants are not a pushover, man. And fun fact for anyone out there listening, the Chiefs have never won against the Giants in New York or New Jersey. The Chiefs have never won there in the history of the franchise. So for whatever reason, when the Chiefs go to play the Giants away in New York, um, that doesn't end well. The one that stands out to me the most, the one that I remember the most, as most of us probably do, is the old Tiki Barber game. I think that was in New York anyway, um, or we just couldn't tackle him. He ran for like 200 yards on the ground and was just running all over us, and we don't want to tackle him that day for whatever reason. But I'm hoping we can finally break that streak of just not figuring out a way to win against the Giants. So, we'll see how it goes, man. I've got faith in one guy on this team, and that's Patrick Mahomes. So that's kind of how I feel about the situation. Obviously, he needs talent around him. So Xavier Worthy being active in this game makes sense in a lot of ways. We need to get a win. This is probably a must win because you're playing the Ravens the week after. So, and we all know the best regular season quarterback is Lamar Jackson, guys. Lamar doesn't start to fall apart until the playoffs, but in the regular season, I don't want to face Lamar Jackson. It's not fun. Similar to Josh Allen, but Lamar is still better in regular season historically. So, anyways, yeah, I got faith, man. So, what do you got for a score prediction for us?
Well, I agree with you on the fact that it is a must win, because, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs obviously are capable of anything. You can start 0-3, 0-4, what have you. The Chiefs can always come back and have a great season. But in my mind, this is a must win because you have to take care of the teams that you're supposed to take care of. And the Giants are one of them that we have to win. So, I will go ahead and take, let's do this. Let's do 27-24 Chiefs. But that's just my respect for the Giants, man. The respect for their defensive line, like you were talking about earlier. Yeah, I'm going to go 27-24. I think it's going to be a hard fought battle.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hell of a game, honestly, and definitely, like I said, not a pushover game by any means. I know when you look at the schedule, you were like, okay, the Giants, Chiefs going to handle them, and yada yada. No, I mean it's not going to be like one of those kind of situations. So I like the Chiefs still to get a win on this one, 23-20. So once again, just by 3 point in this situation. So 23-20 Chiefs. And it's not going to be a high scoring game in this situation. Chiefs don't do that anymore. We're not a high scoring team. And, maybe when Rashid Rice comes back, we can start putting up better points production. But right now, we're just not a team that wins in that fashion. So, yeah, 23-20 is all I got. So, anyways, it looks like we have I don't know if you saw, we have a Eagles fan on here with us. Scream 2 says, "Fly Eagles fly." He missed part of what we talked about, so he's going to go back and re-listen to some of our tush push ideas as well as our thoughts on the Chiefs Eagles. Talked about that about 20 minutes ago, as a matter of fact. So, man. Anyways, I guess we're down to our final topic already, Jason. Is that right?
Already, it's already been an hour. I mean, do you want to
That's
sit?
true.
You want to sit here all night and talk about politics, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about politics, but we'll save that for a different podcast, as a matter of fact. All right, man. Well, let's kick it off, man, with our easy money bet of the week. As a matter of fact, I wish Tanner was with us today because Tanner is the man that has all of the details on how we did last week. I know I went 1-1 as a group. I don't know what we went. Did you get your bet right, Jason, or did you lose that one?
I lost. I lost.
Okay. I think Tanner went 1-1 last week, so But he's the man with all of the input data over there on his side of things, and he better be back next week so we can update us on how we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 1-1 so far on the season. And I made a mistake, man, because I bet against Baker Mayfield, and I'm never gonna make that mistake for the rest of this year. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, man, I tried to tell you before the season began. Baker Mayfield is not a joke. I was trying to warn you. I was trying to warn you.
I knew he wasn't a joke. I just thought that he might, have a little bit of regression, maybe in the beginning of the season. That's just not going to happen.
Okay. Well, Tanner did at least text in his 2 picks for easy money bets. So, just for the sake of saying him on the air, why is he always betting on James Madison in college? I don't understand this. His obsession with James Madison.
But
He
he
does it,
likes them. He likes them. He likes Army and Navy. He
does it
likes
every year, man.
he likes the Air Force and the
Same
Marine.
thing.
If I'm not
He's
mistaken.
got James Madison -10 is his official pick. James Madison -10. So at least he's got an even number. So if they do win by exactly 10, he can break even on that. It's a push. And then he's also got Bucks -7. So Buccaneers -7 is his other pick. So
Interesting.
he's feeling the Buccaneers to go 3-0 in that case. So that'll be interesting to see against the Jets, which makes sense, I suppose. But Jason, I'll let you go ahead and go first and give me your easy money bet of the week.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to go down with the ship as I usually do. I'm going to look at this Houston at Jacksonville game. Total respect, as I said, for Baker Mayfield and the Bucks coming back and winning that game against Houston. But I'm going to take Houston again, man. I mean, this is the definition of insanity. If you fail, you just keep doing the same thing over and over again until you expect a different result. So Houston at Jacksonville. Houston is plus 1.5 here. They're 0-2. And I just do not believe, even on the road, that they're going to lose this game. Just because Houston's just too good, man. They're too good to start the season 0-3. So give me Houston plus 1.5 at Jacksonville.
Okay, interesting pick for sure, man. I've been waiting on Jacksonville's resurgence, so I don't have an opinion on that one, man. I don't know which way to go on that. So for me, funny enough, here we are. We were talking about the game, and I got to take the Giants +6 against the Chiefs in this game. And, I take that for a few different reasons. Obviously, I said my final score 23-20. Chiefs, when they do win, typically win very tight games, going back to last year, of course. And this is not a team that blows out anybody anyway. We're playing it in New York. Keep that in mind. New Jersey, whatever. And the Giants are not a pushover, like I said. So for me, give me the Giants +6. I still think the Chiefs win by 3, but at least that way, if it's a blowout, I can be happy and cheer as a Chiefs fan too. So that's my easy money bet of the week is Giants +6.
What do you think is the reason for that 6-point spread? Is it just disrespectful towards Russell Wilson? Is it disrespect for the defensive backs on the Giants, or what's the reason for that? I feel like that spread should be a little bit closer.
Probably historical data goes a lot into this. I personally think that it has a lot to do with the fact that the Chiefs, have gone to 3 Super Bowls in a row. And at the end of the day, when you look at it on a wide scale like that, you can say, okay, the reigning 3-time in a row Super Bowl attendee, the Chiefs, against the Giants, who have historically over the last 5-6 years been terrible. They're kind of looking at that situation going, okay, it should be a game where the Chiefs win by a touchdown, but they also don't know yet. They don't know enough about Russell Wilson as a Giant. They don't know enough about what they're capable of there in New York. So I think that's part of it. Is even though they're 0-2, those 2 losses have been games that they were very much in, and I think the odds makers are confused on this game. They don't know what to do, and so they're just putting a line out there that says, okay, Chiefs by 6 because we know that they've historically been a good team for the past, 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah, I can see why they would be confused, just because I think this feels like one of those games where the Chiefs are it's either gonna be a blowout or it's gonna come down to the wire. There's no middle ground on this particular scenario. So maybe that's it's because there's no way that it's gonna come close to that 6 point spread. It's either gonna be a blowout or you're talking about a 2 to 3 point game. So
No, like
uh,
I said, the Chiefs don't blow anybody out. So to me, it's going to be a close game. Why would
yeah,
it not? Until,
yeah.
until we can become the team, like when Belichick was with the Patriots or whatever, in those situations, is like they didn't give a damn. Run up the score.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. Andy Reid hates to run up the score. He doesn't want to do that. And so even in games where he could run up the score, hey, let's fiddle fuck around for a while and let him come back a bit. That's what we do here in Kansas City. So, and it's annoying as hell, but that's the way it is. So that's the way I see it going down again.
Good point.
So, all right, man. Will, any final thoughts before we get out of here for the day?
I'm just going to get ready to drive back home and hopefully not get flipped off this time.
Oh, it's late enough now. Everyone should be happy and cozy, and no one should be angry at all. Anybody's driving at this point.
Yeah, that's true. It was during the day when that happened to me. So at this point, probably everybody's drunk and they don't feel like flipping people off tonight.
All right, man. Will, obviously our game's on Sunday Night Football, so it's going to be a late evening on Sunday. Hoping things go well. Otherwise, man, just looking forward to tomorrow night. We got football back on. I'm ready. I'm ready to get the week rolling again once again. So that is the great part about this time of year and having football on pretty much every day of the week almost. So gotta love it, man. And we're about to cool off too, because I saw the forecast. We're about to get finally back down to the low 80s and 70s. So that's the real football weather there coming along.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do the best I can. I've got a 7-hour road trip to try to get back and watch the Ravens game with you guys. I think we've got tickets to the game, and you guys are trying to get me to make that 7-hour drive starting at 5 a.m. so I can get back for tailgating or what have you. And I'm not not looking forward to that drive at 5 a.m., but I'll do the best I can, man.
Yeah, hopefully Tanner doesn't screw us over like usual. So we'll find out.
Larry, he just that would be the ultimate cryptocurrency rug pull. If I drove all the way back early in the morning and he said, "Oh, I gave the tickets up."
Yeah.
That's what he did to me during the Philadelphia Eagles game. He told me he had tickets to the Eagles game, and then he said, "Well, no, sorry, can't do that."
God. Unbelievable. Well, hopefully that bastard's back on this show next week and we can get back to our usual type of hazing of Mr. Tanner. So that is the plan anyway. So
He's
all
gonna
right.
have.
Well, since I had to run the show, I got to figure out how to end this stream. So all right, guys. I guess with all that said, I'll see y'all on the next one.
Outro.